Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Lojak. We are covering every Sweet 16 game from the NCAA tournament this week with sports betting analysts, contributors to SBR Forum. We are talking right now with one of the few handicappers whose opinion I respect more than my own, Jeff Grant from the Bleacher Report and regular SBR contributor. Jeff, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you, Peter.
All right, let's start with Syracuse, Indiana, okay? Indiana, 5.5-point favorite, 135.5. Now, I'm looking at this, Indiana did not look very good against Temple. They did eventually pull out the win, but they didn't get the cover. Syracuse, blasted Montana in their first game. Then they beat Cal. They got backdoored on the spread. I'm looking at this game. Why should Syracuse be a 5.5-point dog? I don't see it. I like Syracuse here plus 5.5. What do you think?
Well, you often hear, Peter, that the NCAA tournament's built on matchups, and especially in the round of 64 when you have 32 games to shoot at, you want to go at the best matchups. Now it's really condensed, and I believe this is the same exact line that the odds makers figured this would have been if they would have played in the first round. There's no real variance. I don't think there's any more value in terms of Syracuse or in terms of Indiana, and I say matchups-wise, Peter, because when you have a few extra days to prepare for a zone defense that Syracuse employs, and you have the type of players that can exploit that zone, I think they're going to cover this number. That's the main reason why I like Indiana. Offensively, they have the size and they have the shooters to take care of the Syracuse zone. And we know from the course of the season, basically the 2012-13 campaign, you never know what offensive team you're going to get from the Syracuse Orange.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so, everyone saw the game against Temple, and, as I'm sure you agree, Indiana did not look good most of the game. Why do you think they struggled there, and do you think it's just an anomaly?
You're always going to have that one game where you're going to be up against it in those first two rounds. You hardly ever see even the number one seed just blow the doors off the opening weekend. You're always going to have that. And you got to remember, too, I wasn't high on Indiana in the first opening round due to the fact that I was reading a lot of information from Tom Crean basically saying that his team was exhausted from Big Ten conference play. They got knocked out by Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship, which isn't a big surprise.
Sure.
They've lost 12 times in a row to Wisconsin. So I think this team was glad to get out of this first round of action. It's so confusing since there's the first round, second round, third round, whatever the case may be, the opening weekend, that now they're going to get comfortable. And I think they have the horses, like I said, to match up well with Syracuse. And Syracuse, Sweet 16-wise, they have not been very good. 0-6 in their last 6 games in the Sweet 16 round against the spread.
Yeah, that makes, and that, goes right in with what you said earlier, which is that a team that has a little bit of time to prepare for Syracuse, has a big advantage. I don't know. I just see this as, Syracuse was at one point the number one team in the nation. 5.5 points is so many points in the Sweet 16, don't you think?
I agree, Peter, but I think maybe the line should be higher, obviously. It could be 7.5, 8, and of course you'd get a lot of Syracuse money based on what the perception of them is right now. But they weren't playing very good basketball going to the Big East Championship. They made a rally. They won 4 games in 4 days and then ran into, of course, a buzzsaw in the second half against Louisville. But I don't think the Big East was very good other than Louisville this year. I know they have some horses in the Sweet 16 now, but they've been pretty fortunate with Marquette getting in there. We're going to talk about that game.
Yeah.
And Louisville, I think, is just the class of that conference. And they were overseeded from the get-go. It was basically a perception game of ranking Syracuse so high. It's almost like, Peter, in college football, where it's so hard to go up the rankings when you're not in them, where it's harder to fall too far down when you're named Syracuse in college basketball.
Right. All right. Well, Jeff Grant likes Indiana. I'm still leaning towards Syracuse, but the last time this happened was Bucknell Butler, and Jeff was dead on. I was completely wrong, so I would advise people to tail Jeff on this one. Thanks so much. Great preview, Jeff.